Hi guys, my name is David and welcome back. Today I am going to be talking about a book that I wanted to read for a while. It's by an author that I wanted to read some of their material for a long time. I kept seeing all their works on bookshelves and picking it up, having a look, and then promptly putting them back, thinking that, well, it's an old school writer and I might not like their writing style and their stories. You know how it goes. You find some excuse in your mind to put the book back. But I found this book while browsing on eBay and it was cheap, so I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. And that book is The Complete Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I thought there was no better way of experiencing Edgar's work rather than reading his poems, which I feel he is more well known for. So this is really short and sweet. All the poems are really short. They range from just a few paragraphs to several pages long. And this book actually has an intro by J. Paranini. I probably said that completely wrong. And this edition has a new afterword by April Bernard. And these are kind of their opinions about Poe and his work, not just his poems but his short stories as well. And also it is a mini autobiography of Poe's life and his career as an author, such as he wasn't taken seriously by other poets back in the day, and his relationship with his cousin and with his adopted parents. So this isn't the first poetry book that I picked up. I did actually read the book that was based on the musical Cats, which is what it says on the tin. It's a book about a poem about cats. And I also read I Am Not Your Final Girl, which focuses around like the last survivors of horror movies. But the problem with them books, despite my feelings about them, they don't really tell you exactly much about the author themselves. And this is going to be more of a discussion video about Poe's poetry rather than a review of them all, because I feel that you cannot do a review on poems by Edgar Allan Poe because they don't really have a plot. They don't have a beginning, middle and an end. Yes, they kind of do, but they don't have a plot like a full-blown novel. They do have ideas such as love and death, and they do have obviously characters within the poems themselves. But this is just going to be a video discussing my experiences while reading this book. So when I first picked this book up, it was just something that I was going to be reading before I went to bed. Something quick, something easy. But I found that I became, I don't really think obsessed is the right word, or intrigued, but something about this book and about these poems and about the way that Edgar Allan Poe writes drew me in. He like grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and pulled me towards it and never let me go. I did actually mention as well not too long ago in this video that about the other two poetry books that I read and how the poems, despite that they are entertaining for what they are, that they don't really tell you much about the author that wrote them. This, despite the fact that all these poems are fictional, yes, some of them may be based on events that happened in Poe's life. But with that said, you do get a sense about who he was as a person, kind of like a taste. I personally feel that he was a very romantic person. He was a loner. You can tell that by this book. It gives me the impression that he kept to himself a lot and never really socialised that much. But he was a romantic at heart, and that's what I am. I'm a romantic heart, heart as well. So that's kind of a connection I had with not just this book, but Poe as an author as well. He does mention death and heaven and hell quite a bit throughout this book, but it's not gory at all. It's not horrific. Yes, because this book was written and all these poems are written in the 1800s, because at the beginning in the contents page it has all the poems and it has in brackets next to them the years that they were published. So they were all published in the 1800s. So with that said, you will come across certain words every now and then that you'll be thinking, oh, what the hell does that mean? But that didn't really affect my enjoyment of the book whatsoever. This isn't a book that you can pick up and read that will cheer you up. If you are looking for a book that will cheer you up, this is not it. But it makes you think. This is a really good book, it really is. And it got me really hooked to Poe's writing. After I got this, I went on eBay again and I found a complete collection of Poe's poems and tales in one volume. Secondhand, obviously, and I am going to be going through that at some point. Obviously, I'm not going to read the whole thing from start to finish in one go. I think I'm just going to like slowly chip away at it as time goes on. Then ultimately I will finish the whole thing. But I am intrigued to see what else Poe can bring to the table. So I just want to give you guys a sense about what Poe's writing style is and what it sounds like. So hopefully this is going to give you an idea whether this is going to be your type of thing to read or not. It was a complete shock to the system for me personally. But the poem that I'm going to be reading is technically not one of my favourites, but for some weird reason unknown to me, I keep on feeling myself being drawn back to this specific poem for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but the poem in question is Annabelle Lee. So I'm just going to read you this and consider this your treat for the day, guys. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabelle Lee. And this maiden, she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee. With a love that winged seraphs of heaven prevented her and me. And this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabelle Lee, so that a highborn kingsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the clouds by night, chilling and killing my Annabelle Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabelle Lee, and the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life, my bride, in the sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. There, wasn't that such a beautiful poem? Yes, it did dealt with a man that deeply loved this woman, and this woman reciprocated that love to this man. And yes, it did deal with death in that story, but as I said, I am a romantic at heart, and I guess that's why I am drawn to that specific story. Yes, it's not really to do with romance, and it's not really romantic, but I do not know, it just seemed very sad and tragic to me, and I suppose that's another reason why I am drawn to that story so much. So surprisingly, I am going to give this book a 5 stars out of 5. Yes, who knew? I'm giving a poetry book full marks. This was so very good, despite the fact that I had no idea most of the time what I was reading. So in conclusion, if you have never read any poetry books or any works by Edgar Allan Poe, then I would definitely recommend that you pick up his poems or this poetry collection, or read and or listen to some of his poems, individually, and that will give you a sense whether you'll like his poems or not. His most famous one is The Raven, and yes, this is in here as well, of course it is, and I did really enjoy that poem as well, but I would highly recommend this to anyone. My personal opinion and thoughts, if you do decide to pick this book up, is not to overthink it. All these poems are supposed to give you a emotion. It is supposed to evoke some emotion within you, and all these emotions are going to be different to each individual person. So I would say, when you read these poems, no matter what they are, whether it's Annabelle Lee or The Raven or whatever, is not to overthink it, and just to read it and accept it for what it is. And you may enjoy it, you may not. You may come out thinking, what the hell have I just read? What a load of rubbish. And if you think that, that is fine. We all have our own opinions, and we are all entitled to that. I would at least say to give this a shot, because if a book about poetry, which doesn't really have a linear story to it, can get me hooked on an author so much, and it's not just his writing style, I felt a kind of a kinship towards Poe as a person, not just as an author, but as a person as well, as he was completely misunderstood. Yes, he did look very, very out there and weird with his appearance, and maybe that had something to do with the fact that people didn't really know what to make of him and didn't take him seriously as a writer. But he was a romantic at heart. Yes, he did have a relationship with his cousin. But yeah, I mean, long and short of it, guys, I would highly recommend this to anyone that's trying to get into poetry and Edgar Allan Poe. Well, and or Edgar Allan Poe. If you are trying to get into horror, I wouldn't really start off with this one, as it will leave you more perplexed than anything else, and you might be put off by horror as a whole. As I said, this isn't really graphic and gory and bloody and people dying and having their guts ripped out of their bodies. This isn't what you're going to get with this. I mean, this is more of a sad book that's going to make you think of life, the universe, and everything. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about it, really. So that's it, guys. That is my little video on Edgar Allan Poe. I don't really have much else to say about it apart from what I've just said and given to you guys. So hopefully this has given you enough information to gauge whether this author is going to be your thing or not. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like, comment down below, let me know, have you read any poems by Poe? What ones did you like? Did you like the one that I enjoyed, or the one that I was drawn to, the Annabelle Lee poem? Also, I might be reading some of his tales for the Halloween period, so if you have any recommendations, please comment them down below, and I will look into them, and I will probably read any suggestions that you guys give me down in the comments. If you have enjoyed this video as a whole, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you do, please click on that bell, as it will remind you whenever I upload videos, which are every Monday and Friday. I will have a link down below to my Goodreads account, so it will tell you what I'm reading and you can message me or whatever. And with all that out the way, have a great day, read some awesome books, and I will see you all in my next video.